Organisms and Population, Part 1. Ecology. Ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the study of interactions and interrelationship between organisms and its physical environment. The term ecology was coined by German scientist Ernst Haeckel. Ecology has two approaches, namely autoecology and synecology. Autoecology, also called species ecology, is the study of relationship of a single species or population within the environment for its various aspects like history, population, dynamics, adaptations, etc. Synecology or community ecology is the study of biotic communities in their various aspects like structure, development, distribution, adaptation, etc. in relation to their environment. Ecology is concerned with four levels of biological organization, namely organism, population, community, and biome. Now, organisms form the basic unit of study in ecology. Organisms with similar feature and potential interbreed among themselves and produce fertile offsprings constituting a species. Now, let us look into population. Population refers to a group of individuals of the same species inhabiting a given area. Interspecific competition for basic needs operate among the individuals of a population. Biological community is constituted by the assemblage of populations of all different species that live in an area and interact with each other. A biotic community has distinct species composition and structure. Now let us look at the biome. Biome is a very large unit constituting a major vegetation type and associated fauna in a specialized zone. Annual variations in the intensity, duration of temperature and precipitation account for the formation of major biomes like deserts, rainforest and tundra. Factors that affect the environment we know are the rotation of the earth, seasonal and annual variation in temperature and precipitation, and habitats. All these help in determining the formation of major biomes. The six major biomes are as follows: Arctic and alpine tundra, coniferous forests, temperate forests, grasslands, tropical forests, and deserts. The major abiotic factors that the major abiotic factors are temperature, water, light, and soil. The temperature is the degree of hotness and coldness of a substance, which determines whether it will lose or gain heat from another body. Many organisms are adapted to live in relatively constant temperatures throughout. They are called stenothermal organisms. Example: many palms, corals, snakes, some fishes, etc. A few organisms can tolerate large changes in temperature and are called eurythermal organisms. Example: cyclops, artemisia, toad, and wall lizard. Now, water. Life on earth originated in water. The productivity and distribution of plants depend on water. Water functions as a resource, a condition, and as a habitat. Water as a resource. It constitutes 60 to 95% of the body. All metabolic reactions occur within water as a solvent. Water is essential for photosynthesis and respiration. Complex substances are converted into simpler substances through hydrolysis, while simpler substances are converted into complex polymers through dehydration synthesis. Water as a habitat. Large number of organisms live in water. Aquatic habitats may be in freshwater, marine, or in an estuary. Distribution of aquatic organisms is controlled by quality of water like pH, salt content, and suspended particles. Organisms that can tolerate wide range of salinity are called euryhalines. Example: Hilsa and salmon. Organisms that can tolerate only narrow range of salinity are called stenohalines, and most of the organisms are said to be stelohaline. Now let us look at water as a condition. Availability of water determines the type of plants and animals dependent on them. In terrestrial habitats, depending upon water availability, we can classify plants into hydrophytes, mesophytes, and xerophytes. Hydrophytes are the plants that occur in damp, wet areas. They have soft, flexible stems, large, thin leaves, and abundant stomata and hydatodes. Example: Rumex, Ranunculus, Dichanthium. Mesophytes are the plants that grow in soil having optimum moisture and aeration. Leaves are broad with moderate thickness. Stems are strong and solid. Example: sunflower and mango. Xerophytes are the plants living in dry habitats, example tamarix, acacia, cactus, etc. Now let us look at light as another abiotic factor. Sunlight is the main source of light for plants to carry out photosynthesis. Three aspects of light influences organisms, namely quality, that is wavelength, intensity, energy value, and duration as the length of the day. Light intensity influences photosynthesis, growth, and reproduction. Light quality influences flower induction, seed germination, and plant movements, and duration of light affects phenology. Effect of light can also be felt profoundly on animals too. It results in migration, affects reproduction, impacts sex organs in marine organisms, essential for development of larvae, results in pigmentation in human beings when exposed to sunlight for a long duration, formation of the eyes, locomotion, and period of activity based on which animals are either active during day, we call them as diurnal, or active at night, such animals are called nocturnal. Now, soil. The nature and properties of the soil vary from place to place. It is dependent on the climate, the weathering process, whether soil is transported or sedimentary, and how soil development has occurred. Characteristics of a soil or soil composition, grain size, aggregation, which determines the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. What are the factors what are the responses to such abiotic factors? The maintenance of equilibrium between organisms' external environment and a constant favorable internal environment in the body despite the changes in the external environment is called homeostasis. Homeostasis is generally maintained by changes in blood supply, excretion, and osmoregulation. Now you can see the responses in four different forms. Some of them become regulators. These organisms are able to regulate the body functions and maintain homeostasis, have a constant body temperature and a constant osmotic concentration. They are called regulators. Only a few animals belong to the category of regulators. Example, tuna fish, swordfish, a few invertebrates. Animals having regulated body temperature are called endothermic or homeothermal. The body is covered by an insulated fur. Higher metabolic rate enables the animals to be more active. Many vertebrates and a number of aquatic invertebrates are strict osmoregulators. If present in water, they eliminate excess water, while in sea, they drink seawater to compensate for the loss of water due to exosmosis. Marine fishes have salt excreting glands. A marine fish kept in fresh water will not be able to survive for a long because water will enter the body due to endosmosis. Its water drinking habitat will also cause excess entry of water in the body. If it is able to excrete a large amount of urine, it will be able to survive for some time. If it does not have self-absorbing mechanism of freshwater fishes, it dies. However, migratory fishes have hormone control mechanism to convert themselves from salt excreting and water drinking marine form to non-drinking salt-absorbing freshwater form. Example, hilsa and salmon. Now let us look at conformers. The organisms whose body temperature and body fluid osmolarity changes with that of ambient environment are called conformers. Example, fishes, amphibians, reptiles, invertebrates and plants. They are also called poikilotherms or exothermic organisms. Partial or limited regulators. These are the organisms which are intermediate between conformers and regulators. They are able to maintain homeostasis up to a certain limit beyond which they behave like conformers. Examples, some aquatic invertebrates. When organisms face stressful environment, organisms have two choices, either to migrate or to suspend the activities. Migration is a two-way movement of a population from a stressful habitat to a congenial area for food, shelter, favorable climate and other reasons. Migration can be daily, periodic, or seasonal. Or the next option they have is to suspend. Animals that may not be able to migrate suspend their activities during unfavorable conditions. In lower plants, bacteria and fungi, plants produce thick-walled spores to tide over unfavorable condition. Higher plants develop perinating structures like seeds, rhizomes, bulbs, and cones. Suspension of activities are of three types, namely hibernation, estivation, and diapause. Hibernation is the phenomenon of passing the winter in resting or dormant condition. Hibernation is also called winter sleep and it occurs commonly in ectotherms and a few endotherms. Estivation is the phenomenon of passing the summer in resting or dormant condition. Examples snails, fish, frogs, etc. Diapause is a temporary interruption in the development of an organism which is usually associated with unfavorable environmental conditions. Let us look at the last aspect of this video, that is adaptation. Adaptation is any attribute of an organism which could be morphological, physiological and behavioral that enables the organism to survive and reproduce in the particular environment. Many adaptations have evolved over a long evolutionary time and are also genetically fixed. Now let us look at some of the examples of adaptations. So, kangaroo rat in North American deserts is capable of meeting all its water requirements through its internal fat oxidation, in which water is a byproduct. It also has the ability to concentrate its urine so that the minimal volume of water is used to remove excretory product, and it is an example of a physiological adaptation. Mammals from colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to minimize heat loss, and this is also known as Allen's law, and it is a morphological adaptation. In the polar seas, aquatic mammals like seals have a thick layer of fat called the blubber below their skin that acts as an insulator and reduces the body heat. Again, this is a morphological adaptation. When human beings go higher up the altitudes, initially they experience altitude sickness, nausea, fatigue, and heart palpitations are the symptoms, which is due to the fact that the body does not have enough oxygen as the pressure is low. The body then starts responding to low oxygen availability by increasing the RBC production, decreasing the binding affinity of the hemoglobin, and increasing the breathing rate. So, this is an example of a physiological adaptation. Physiological reactions proceed optimally in a narrow range of temperature in humans, that is 37 degrees Celsius, but there are microbes like archaebacteria which have special enzymes and plasma membrane composition that enables them to live comfortably at high temperatures. Deep sea fishes and other organisms had to bear pressure 100 times the normal pressure. They do not have air sacs. Many fishes thrive in Antarctica where the temperature is always sub-zero because their body fluids contain an antifreeze solute called glycerol and the antifreeze proteins. The solutes will lower the freezing point of the body fluids below 0 degrees Celsius. As a result, ice formation is prevented and animals are active. Now, desert lizards lack the physiological adaptations that mammals have to deal with high temperature of their habitat, but manage to keep the body temperature fairly constant by behavioral means. They bask their skin, absorb heat when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone, but move into the shade when ambient temperature starts increasing. So, since reptiles do not have adaptations, physiological adaptations, they adapt behaviorally, they show an adaptation that helps them to keep their body temperature uh, somewhat congenial for them. Now, some species of desert lizards burrow into the soil to hide and escape from the above ground heat. In winter, snakes come out of their burrows and bask in the sun to warm their body for their activity. Again, it is a behavioral adaptation. So, this